Hello everyone, this is the first video in my series of reviews of the Famicom Wars franchise, also known as Advance Wars and Game Boy Wars. Famicom Wars remains one of my favorite Nintendo franchises to this day, and a video series turning an in-depth critical eye to every game in this series, from the first game to the last, has been something I've always thought about doing. Since I'm playing the games again while I work on a map project, I figured this would be the perfect opportunity for such a video series. Famicom Wars was originally released on, what else, the Nintendo Famicom on August 12, 1988. It was fairly groundbreaking for the console at the time, as it was one of the earliest war strategy games on the console, though other war strategy games predated it. Notably, the game would serve as inspiration for another groundbreaking strategy series, the Fire Emblem games, which are still being made today. Oh, and like Fire Emblem, this game has a hilarious and amazing commercial.
Famicom Wars が出るぞ
Famicom Wars が出るぞ
こいつはどえらいシミュレーション
こいつはどえらいシミュレーション
のめり込める
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 母ちゃんたちには内緒だぞ
母ちゃんたちには内緒だぞ
のめり込むシミュレーションゲームファミコンウォーズ
ファミコンウォーズが出るぞ
Famicom Wars is a war battle game between two countries, Red Star and Blue Moon. The two armies are tasked with deploying 16 different land, sea, and air units, securing buildings with their foot soldiers to generate more income, and ultimately destroying all enemy units or capturing the opponent's headquarters. Damage inflicted is based on unit matchup, so a tank will obviously fare well against foot soldiers, bombers, artillery, not so much. Units also lose power the less hit points they have, but they can be repaired at cities you capture. These are simple game mechanics that are frequently used in other strategy games to this day. Couple the simple premise with amusing animations and a great soundtrack by Hirokazu Tanaka of Metroid and Earthbound fame, and you've got a great setup for the start of an amazing series of games. Except, well, the game has aged about as well as the original Kid Icarus. The interface is unfortunately very clunky and slow, and it can take ages for the enemy to take their turn since the computer spends so much time thinking about its next move. Annoyingly, to build more units you have to highlight the tile to build from and select Build from this menu. By the way, cities nearest to your HQ can be built from, which means there are two possible buildings to get land units from, but one of them is only seen near the HQ anyways. Confusing, right? You also have to use a menu command to refuel all units. You can't even disable the battle animations either. This sluggish interface isn't helped by the level design either. The game features 15 maps that must be conquered before facing a final challenge, which will be different depending on the country you're playing. Most maps will take a good while to actually complete, and many have tight quarters that seem to beg you to spam the long-ranged artillery units, especially since in short-range combat, both sides attack simultaneously if able, meaning you are essentially being punished for going on the offensive at close range, since attacking risks leaving that unit vulnerable to getting KO'd even if it has backup. The most annoying maps of them all are the maps that feature battles across two or more islands, such as the third map, Triangles. This map features a river dividing the two sides that neither side's vehicles have any way of crossing, meaning the only long-term units to build are air units and foot soldiers that get carried across via helicopter transport. If the other player loaded his side with anti-air units, then it becomes a massive war of attrition than if nothing else. The Navy combat is even worse, as there are only two ships to do battle with, and they're way overpriced. A short-range ship that carries any land unit, and a long-ranged ship that doesn't carry units. Yay! Such variety! I mean, there's only 4 air units, but you'll probably use them more often if the option's there, since the Navy units are restricted to sea, and the air units aren't. Turtle Atoll is the only map with Navy but not air units, and it's a slog. Navy units are slow to deploy due to the high cost, and the only way to finish the map is to transport land units slowly to the other side of the map. This is a problem with the Navy that is unfortunately present throughout the rest of the series, and it's yet to receive that great a solution, but they do try. I haven't even mentioned some of the clear balance issues within the maps themselves. Multiplayer is an option in this game, yet many of the maps are clearly biased towards one side, even beyond Red Star's advantage of being able to go first. I can understand giving the single-player mode a challenge, but since the maps don't change depending on the selected country, I have to question Red Star's obvious advantage in Donut Island, and who knows what they were thinking when they made Fist Peninsula. All this culminates in either of the two final maps, Shark Strait and Royal Channel. They're big, they're long, they take forever because of all the units already deployed. Look, if you really want to play these maps, all of them are in the sequel anyways, as well as the rest of the Advance Wars series, so you might as well play those. After several releases on the Game Boy, the sequel, Super Famicom Wars, came out in 1998, a whole decade after the original game. It's got more maps, better gameplay, everything is nice and streamlined, it goes faster, more features are present, many of which would come to define the series. All maps and units are present from the original game, as well as new maps and new units that previously appeared in Game Boy Wars. 2 new countries were added, Green Earth and Yellow Comet, and they feature in the new 2-player maps, and all 4 countries can battle in teams or a free-for-all in the new 4-player maps. 4 players is not recommended, by the way. Do you have any idea how long that'll take? Look at these maps. It's ridiculous. A number of new optional features are present, including an option to make the game end after a player has secured 3/4 of the buildings on the map. Fog of War was an option that was introduced in Game Boy Wars. It returns. It hides units outside the vision range of your army, requiring you to find enemies before you can kill them, and an experience system which rewards units that damage enemy units by making them stronger. The biggest new feature has to be the commanding officers. Players can select one of 7 commanders, though they're less characters and more like difficulty sliders in practice. 4 of the commanders, Yuan Delta, Rogensky, Fawn Rosso, and that guy, only affect the way the AI plays. The other 3 have special benefits to them. Carolyn randomly inflicts extra damage, Billy Gates gets 10,000 extra gold every turn, and Yamamoto's units all start at level 2, even if the experience system is turned off. It feels more like a handicap system than anything else, and if you wanted to give the AI an extra leg up, then that would be the way to do it, just have them play Yamamoto. New units include some of the Navy vessels and planes seen in Game Boy Wars, a recon unit for Fog of War, a train unit that can be built and moved only on railroads. This train carries any 2 units, by the way, not just infantry like I thought at first. And the Neo-Tank, which can be obtained only by capturing a neutral laboratory, and the foot soldier that takes the lab transforms into the Neo-Tank. I have no idea how. Does it drive the tank, or do we have some kind of robotic cyborg stuff going on here? Let's move on. The Neo-Tank is a rare and powerful tank that you definitely don't want to lose, considering you only get 1 per lab. All of these are somewhat nice ideas, but they feel a little underdeveloped. Map design was not at its best quite yet after all. While it's not perfect, Super Famicom Wars is a great improvement over the original game. I can definitely recommend at least trying it. Some of the map design is definitely questionable, that's for certain. Just look at Bounty River and weep for me. And beating it would certainly take a while, but I think it's at least worth it to play a round or 2 to get an idea of how far the series has come since their early days. You also can't argue with hilarious animations and a superb soundtrack. Overall, Famicom Wars and its sequel are certainly inventive, somewhat amusing, have excellent music and a nice concept, but there's no way I'd ever spend the time seriously finishing them in this year. It may be the foundation for the great series to follow, but due to the slow gameplay and map imbalances, you're probably better off starting with Advance Wars. As for me, next are the 3, actually, wait, 4? There's 4 of them? Next up is Game Boy Wars, where Famicom Wars meets a new developer.